Okay, for this section of 1.4, we're going to talk about what's called the principal square root of a negative number, and then some operations involving square roots of negatives. So the first thing is, if you have a real number and it's negative, and you are going to take the square root of it, okay, then what this says is you have to take the I out first. Before you do any other math, you have to take the I out first before you do anything, okay? So now I'm going to show you kind of the right way to do, or a correct way to do this and an incorrect, okay? So first off, I'm going to show you the wrong way to do this, okay? So here is the concept. I've got the square root of -5 times the square root of -20, okay? Now, again, I'm going to do this the wrong way. So incorrect is I go, oh, let me do multiplication. We did that whole thing in one of the other videos where I can separate. You can bring it back together. So this is -5 times -20, all up under one big square root. That's square root of 100. Oh, I can do that. That's 10. Okay. And we are taking, this is called the principal or primary root, which is just the positive. Now, the correct way to have done this same problem, so the right way to have done this, same problem, is you take the I out first. Sorry, let me get out of that blind spot. Okay. Now I can do I times I on the outside, so it's going to be I squared, and then I can bring those back together. I squared is -1 times the square root of 100, and that is going to be -10. Negative, and then that'll come out to be a 10 out of that square root of 100. This is the correct. Now you may be thinking, oh, it's not that big a deal. It's just a negative. But if this is math that is occurring in a procedure line of stuff, then your answer may get further and further off and away from the correct response the further out you go. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of problems that they want us to do. Okay, so I've got square root of -27 plus square root of -48. And again, first thing we're doing here is taking out the i's. Okay, now this is addition, which means I'm looking to be able to combine things, okay? And I can't do that with square root of 27 and square root of 48 because those are not the same. They don't look the same. So what you're looking for here is you want to simplify this radical. Now, there are lots of ways to do this. I personally try and find a number that I can take the square root of against something that I can't, or that it won't work. It's going to be 16. Now, since I can take the square root of 9, I am going to do so. The square root of 9 is 3, so that's going to come out. This 3 is being left behind. Square root of 16 is 4. Now, if you notice, I have, and I'm going to kind of do this, I've got I square root of 3, I square root of 3. Those match. So I have 3 of them plus 4 of them, okay? And that is going to give me 7 of them. So there's our response for that one. And then one more that we're going to look at, I'm going to go ahead and give myself lots of space to be able to do this one, is we're doing -2 minus square root of -3, all of that squared, okay? Now, do remember that when you're squaring something, that means you're squaring the entire thing. So do not try and just distribute this in. That doesn't work, okay? But before I do that, I'm going to pull that negative out to make the I, okay? Now, sorry, that should be a squared right there. I apologize. And so I am now going to write that twice so that now I can FOIL this. 4. Negative against negative is going to make +2i square roots of 3. another 2i square roots of 3. And then this is going to look strange here for just a second. I'm going to clean it up here in just a second, okay? But I did do I times I and square root of 3 times square root of 3. Okay, so I've got I squared, square root of 3 squared. Now, I am going to go ahead and combine these two together. So I have 2i squared of 3 and another 2i squared of 3. So it's 4 plus 4i square roots of 3. Now, I squared is -1. Sorry. Square root squared gives me just the underneath. Okay, so now I have 4 plus 4i square roots of 3 minus 3. Combining, that gives me 1 plus 4i square roots of 3. And again here, notice that that square root of 3 is left behind the I for this. And that is so that there's no confusion whether or not the I is under a square root or not under a square root.